a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. Adam Dunn is in Alaska on a fishing boat right now. I'm your stand-in host, Mitch Shinasa. With me, as seldom, is KTI. And I'm running the boards, no kid. I'm doing it all today. I'm no Adam, no kid. It's like the basement show, but it's here. And we finally do have Lisa Ganora, so I'm actually really excited. We had to pull the Ferris Bueller last time due to some miscommunication, but now we got it. And I'm excited for this show. I've wanted to speak to this woman, especially about cannabis, for a really long time now.
This will be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
It'll be good.
I'm interested. It's gonna be. I'm gonna be learning a lot, I think, from this because it's. I was looking through her stuff, and it's new material for me.
Yeah, for pretty much all of us, and that's what's cool. I liked having Elaine Ingham on. I like when we have non-cannabis people on the show. You know. So hey, it's the return of news. What do you know about that? Because we actually don't have time we don't have any banter. How am I going to banter with KTI? That ain't happening. No, KTI's not there for the banter.
I'm here for other stuff.
Right. Keeping it all happening.
Keeping it, yeah.
Hey, let's go news.
Addictive painkiller profiteer donates $500,000 to fight cannabis legalization in Arizona. File under Conspiracy is real. Inus Therapeutics, which profits off a painkiller 50 times more potent than heroin, has donated $500,000 to a campaign opposing marijuana legalization in the United States state of Arizona. The maker of the drug Subsys, a sublingual fentanyl spray, said that children are their main concern for fighting Prop 205, which appears on the ballot this November.
It's funny. The kids are my main concern with Prop 205 too. You know, with making sure it gets passed. Right?
Yeah, it's funny how we're all worried about the children.
Well, it's the kids on our side too.
So, okay, the chairperson pushing Prop 205 obviously accurately says that they want to be able to push their far more addictive drugs that make a lot more money. I feel like a spray that's 50 times stronger than heroin is not safer for kids than herb. I'm going to go out and...
Yeah, or herb should definitely be a option in that when that's an option, herb should definitely be an option.
You can't be like, oh, well, that's reasonable, but herb not. Yeah, that's unreasonable.
Herb is doesn't compare to opiates for reasons.
Filed under good news, Alaska cannabis regulators okay first retail license.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's where Adam is.
Oh, man.
Well, now it all adds up. He went out there to make it happen. And look, he's been there. Been there how long? I don't know, 2 days? And boom, happened. Made it happen.
Stuff changes.
In Anchorage, Alaska marijuana regulators have approved the first permit for a cannabis retail store. The Cannabis Marijuana Control Board on Thursday approved the permit for Frozen Buds, which the day Adam got there, for Frozen Buds, which will be located in Fairbanks. Frozen Buds, obviously a great and well-respected name, in my opinion. Co-owner Destiny Need received a round of applause from the audience and clapped herself. As she walked back to her seat, she told the audience, now all I need is some herb. Well, Adam's there now. This is all really working out. He's a wise man.
Yeah, the pieces are all starting to make sense. The puzzle, I can see it now.
Yeah, now it all makes sense. It's a mystery fishing trip to Alaska, he says.
Yeah, and that's right in time. Well, I don't know. They're out their season. They don't really have anything up there, do they? Some autos. Something.
But yeah, they got stores now. So I don't know if Adam's like out on the ocean or he's not even really fishing and he's really doing this and it was secret. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Hey, let's go news.
Filed under silly cannabis news. Dorothy, a 3-week-old female medical cannabis plant, made her debut at the opening day of the New Mexico State Fair on Thursday, but she was booted out before the day's end. I know.
Discrimination.
I know. The plant was on display at a booth paid for by New Mexico Top Organics, and her presence was advertised in a company press release as only the second time a cannabis plant had made an appearance at a state fair in the United States, given that marijuana is still illegal at the federal level and is authorized in New Mexico for certain medical conditions. But after they set up the booth, a state fair manager told Rodriguez that there has been a huge mistake. When someone walks up to you at a convention and they walk up to you and say, "I'm sorry, there's been a huge mistake," that's not a good sign. And they asked him to remove the plant together with the printed materials that had pictures of cannabis plants. Obviously, initially, they let him set that up. And it says they were agreed to let the booth remain through the end of the day, but I think it got shut down. State police officer later approached and said he needed to remove the plant and the other items immediately. Well, that's not cool.
Yeah, it's way different from I think it was Washington the other week. They did they did some they had a state fair and they gave out blue ribbons to some vegging cannabis plants.
Did they?
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it made NPR. I think made it or some sort of national news or something.
Hey,
The file under heads up. Here are all 9 statewide cannabis initiatives up for vote this November, because this is something that I didn't have in front of me. We haven't talked about. Let's see. We got recreational in Nevada, of course, California, Maine, Massachusetts, and Arizona. If you're listening in one of those places and you're not involved and you're not really trying to see what's not just how you think you can help, but how the campaigns there can think you can help, you're doing yourself a disservice. And medical, of course, in Florida, Oklahoma, Arkansas, North Dakota, all those places, go get involved. And I think that'll wrap it on news. What do you think, KTI?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's all the...
Okay, well then why don't we do shouts, and then I'll line up Lisa, and then we'll give her a call.
Sure.
Sound good? Okay. Do you want to do a shout?
To the sponsors? Or?
Yeah, that's what we do now.
Yeah, well, shout goes out to Way to Grow.
There you go.
We're loving Way to Grow and all their wonderful locations and their people.
And all the ways they grow.
I go to Colorado Springs is where I go, and I chat with those people down there, and they always get a good time, get to have fun, get some candy, and get a good deal, and go find some stuff and
learn some stuff.
Yeah, I know they're all real knowledgeable down there. There's good brains floating around those stores, so if you don't just want to pick up some stuff, some actual goods, it's good to go pick up some knowledge and some candy, knowledge and candy,
all
and
that stuff.
It's free stuff that's actually
Halloween's cool because you get candy. Way to Grow is even cooler than Halloween because you get candy, but you also get knowledge
all the time. And there's usually something worth picking up there. Always is. I always walk out with something, so it's good stuff. Hit them up,
check them out. Find the location nearest you at waytogrow.net.
Yeah.
And of course, big shout out to Incredibles Edibles.
Yeah, eat some of those to get through the day.
Those are a good way to get through the day.
I like eating a little quick Fireberry, maybe.
Just bang out a little Fireberry. You don't have that in you. You can't smash down a Fireberry and finish your day.
I'd say three's definitely, that's, but that,
No, I can
throughout the day, I'll go through 3.
Really?
Their stuff is pretty good, but I can eat 100 at a time. Like, I love mowing through 100 easy, so.
Well, there's plenty of I almost said the C word. Plenty of Incredibles bars that are not candy for you. And they're definitely not candy.
Yeah. No, but they're tasty and
absolutely delicious.
If we go ham on something, I get the CBD bar and mouth through one of those.
The black cherry is so good. Those are
I'm
really
still
good.
On this.
I like those for just chilling out.
Yeah.
And then
perfect.
They did the Makiba bar, which is good. It's like more seeds and nuts. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I like the new flavors a lot. I'm excited to see the next things they bring out. And of course, you got to talk about their extracts. Incredibles extracts, some of the better stuff in town. Don't miss out. Speaking of don't miss out, big shout out to Dark Horse Genetics. I know I wasn't doing a proper shout out the last 2 weeks, but I actually have something to announce now. Check them out. SeedsHereNow.com has Dark Horse Genetics in stock.
Awesome.
Of course, Attitude Seed Bank has Dark Horse in stock for our international friends. And
local places,
Harvest House up in Netherlands has Dark Horse seeds in stock. So anyone from around the U.S. who happens to be in Colorado who wants to pick up some Dark Horse seeds, you could do it. Oh, wow, Lisa's calling us.
Yeah.
All right, let's pick her up.
And then we'll finish it up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Hello? Can you hear us, Lisa?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Can you hear us now?
Excellent. Yeah, got you good.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had to download a new version of Skype, so I just
Certainly.
want to make sure everything was cool. So I figured I'd give you a call here.
Yeah, perfect. So we're live now. We're just going to finish doing our little sponsor shout-outs, and then we'll get going. I was just about to
Right on.
introduce you.
And listen, can you call me a break about half an hour in? And how long are we going for?
Oh, we'll go till you insist on leaving. We can go nominally till at least 4:30. We're going to be doing the show. So, but when you gotta go, you gotta go.
If we call it 4, it'll turn into 4:30. So that's that's about how that works.
That's perfect.
When do you usually start?
Oh, we're live.
Oh, right now?
Yeah. Everyone's listening.
Yeah, okay. Don't you love that? Yeah, so let's do a break in about half an hour, and then we'll go to at least 4, and,
Cool.
there you go.
I'll set a timer right now for that, and then we'll keep doing our shout-outs.
Sweet.
KTI.
Shout goes out to Build a Soil.
There we go.
Hit up Jeremy on his website, or give him a call and his team a call if you got any questions. They got a lot of great organic nutrients for you, and a lot of recipes, and great ways to get started, and help for me. It's all contributing back to things. So that's why I like supporting Jeremy and all that. So.
And I mean, it's a hell of a product. If you're growing organic, you're growing in soil, and you want to just add water.
It's clean, simple,
The hardest
easy.
part about it is the mix, and it's all figured out. So, piece of cake. Check them out at buildthesoil.com. Of course, big shout out to Grow Stones. Grow Stones, we have confirmation they're going to be bringing Dr. Paul Acosta.
For sure.
When's that, October 29th?
28th.
28th.
Yeah,
obviously, Paul is going to go down to a lot of hydroponic science for us. Get nitty gritty because she missed the Olympics last week, the Grow Olympics last week. So she didn't get to defend hydro, which lost terribly to organic growing. So we'll give her a chance to get her word in edgewise, and that's October 29th. And of course, in the meantime, check out Grow Stones. They're great. We're all making Grow Stones. I don't know if they use blue glass, but they are made out of recycled glass.
I'm sure they use whatever.
Way better than perlite in your mix. They don't float to the top. Better cation exchange ratio. Better air holding capacity. Just everything that you're using your aeration for, they do it better, and it's sustainable. So we like that too. So check them out, and that's Grow Stones. Also, big shout out to our buddies at Hydroponic Research who did step up for Team Hydro last week on a whim. Kind of like, being an understudy at the Olympics, like not even knowing you had to go to the Olympics, and then getting a call and be like, you got to compete in the Olympics for your growing method last minute. That's tough. They came brave, fought valiantly, but they weren't prepared. Jeremy crushed them. But either way, you will crush it if you use VeggieBloom. Again, that's hydroponic-research.com. Everybody who's going big commercial, if you're kind of doing an indoor facility that's sterile, repeatable, massive scale, you need to be using VeggieBloom. That's the only way to keep it where you need it to be. So check them out at hydroponicresearch.com, and of course, KTI, please.
Seeds here now.
Yes, seeds here now. Seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
I imagine James is not presently in the chat room because he's on a fishing boat with Adam somewhere in Alaska. But big shout out to James Bean and the whole Seeds Here Now crew. It sounds like James is going to be bringing us both Bog and Crockett on a couple Breeders episodes coming up. So
that'd be awesome.
Everybody who's kind of a Bog fan, I know there's a bunch of old school forum growers who are a big fan of Bog. We got him coming up, courtesy of Seeds Here Now. In the meantime, they still got the sale going, I'm pretty sure, on the site. I know they got a 2-for-1 promo. You can check on their Instagram they just posted. So, of course, check them out at seedsherenow.com, and you'll know about all the promos faster than I do if you scroll all the way to the bottom and subscribe to their mailings. Then you'll be hooked up with Seeds Here Now. And now, very pleased to be on the line with Lisa Ganora. You're not a doctor, right? I just say Ms.
Not officially a doctor,
formally.
no.
Are you formally?
Not formally. No license, no PhD, no MD.
I'm trying to talk to this guy who is formally a master in Chinese medicine, and I just haven't called him yet because it's weird to just call someone master on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to kind of
introduce
you to our audience. I became aware of you because you teach here in the Boulder area, and I happen to know someone who studied with you. But for the most part, you're not really in the cannabis world. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of read your bio. Or why would I read a bio? Here you are on the phone with me. That makes more sense.
Here I am.
Let
Yeah,
me let you
let's
give
do it the
live.
easy way.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so I started getting into herbal medicine in 1986. I was up in Cape Cod, and I was working with some folks with addiction issues, and one of the things that somebody brought into the circle was that dandelion root was really helpful for balancing your blood sugar, which can tend to crash in response to, being deprived of certain substances. So I was skeptical. I'd never heard of anything like that before, but we tried it and had some pretty amazing results. So that got me interested in studying botanical medicine, which I first did up at a place called the Wise Woman Center up in upstate New York. So that was very sort of oral tradition, village herbalist, very practical style herbalism that had just been, passed down from generation to generation, and learned to do a lot of hands-on kind of things, herbal pharmacy, kitchen pharmacy and that kind of stuff. And so that's what got me started. And once I got rolling with the Wise Woman Center, I was just that. You might have heard of Susan Weed. She's the one that started that whole thing up there. I was just really, really enthusiastic about what I was seeing that plants could do, and also the fact that, it was very empowering because people without money to go to the doctor sometimes want to see what they can do on their own. So we were learning a lot of that kind of stuff. And that went on for a while, learning and teaching and putting on workshops and wildcrafting. And then I moved down to the Appalachian Mountains, the Southern Appalachians, around the Asheville, North Carolina area. And I started meeting elders and native folks who had been doing herbalism, forever. And it was just a normal thing that they'd always done. So I spent a lot of time carrying buckets and digging holes for people and, being the sponge and learning a lot that way. And then when my kid got school age, I decided to go back to college since I had never graduated previously. I think I was, 40 years old when I graduated from college. So went back, took a lot of chemistry, rediscovered an interest I'd had ever since I was a kid in that branch of science, did a lot of biochem, a lot of anatomy, physiology, botany, anything that was vaguely related to the science of medicinal plants, and graduated summa cum laude from there in 2000. And then I decided, the Asheville area there's so many herbalists there. So I decided my specialty would be herbal constituents, which are the phytochemicals in herbs and what we know about how they contribute to their actions and their medicinal properties. So I started some self-study with pharmacognosy textbooks and made some friends with people like James Duke and, some of the really early people who are working with the constituents of medicinal plants, and just really got fascinated with it. Got so far into it, I started getting a reputation as a teacher, and I was being called to teach at schools and conferences, and people would ask what book I recommended, and that was a tough one because there wasn't a good one out at the time. There was either, graduate level or PhD level textbooks, or, valiant attempts by herbalists to write about constituents, but they didn't have the 4-year chemistry background that made that, really helpful to be able to do that. So I decided I would write the book, Herbal Constituents, which I did, and that's, the mission of that book is really to help it become understandable to practitioners, natural medicine practitioners, or maybe people who don't have a big background in chemistry, to help them understand what phytochemicals are, what herbal constituents are, how they work, what they do, what's in your different medicinal plants. And it's a nice bridge between the traditional herbalism and the scientific world.
And I have to definitely echo that sentiment. I mean, that's the first thing that struck me when I found like the first chapter for free online. So I kind of started reading it, and I mean, it's like a beautiful, evocative, write-up of what's usually really, really dry and sort of taken for granted when you talk about the science part of it, and that makes it all come alive.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be dry. That's the thing. It's like these phytochemicals are what plants are doing, right? They're making it's like a thing nature is doing. It's some invisible, esoteric, fascinating thing nature is doing. It's not like some boring organic chemistry course you've got to slog through in school where your professor is droning away up at the blackboard. It's just that's just the way we teach it. But it really is super interesting stuff when you get into it, especially when you get into aspects that you can actually see and experience with your senses,
Mm.
which is a field of study called organoleptics. And I'm sure y'all do that all the time. You judge from the aroma different things about genetics and strains and whatnot. So, when you tie in the sort of more esoteric aspects of the phytochemistry knowledge with the experience of the organoleptics, then it brings it into the world and makes it real, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, the thing that we see now, the real, I want to say, trend in the discussion in the cannabis world, in the cannabis industry for the past, call it 5 years, has really been leaning towards extractions for a variety of reasons. And, at first it was just who can get the purest THC, and now it's come to trying to capture terpenes and the most efficient ways to capture these things.
Right.
And it's becoming interesting dancing around regulations. And I guess my first question that I have for you, so we have sort of a resident, he's our buddy Jim Freres, who I'm talking to talking about for our listeners, and he's got a chemistry masters out there, but he's been making hash oil in a lab since the 70s, and he's part chemist, part shaman. I imagine a kindred spirit to yourself type thing. So what I talk about with Jim all the time is how when you take the parts away from the whole and mix them without some part of the whole, you're losing some synergy there. And I was wondering if you could talk to us about that sort of synergy in general as it happens in herbal medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics, and I think this is a real big picture. This is a real big picture question, and what we really have is two different paradigms, two different ways of looking at medicine, that have both, are part of our society, but the main part of our society is the single molecule paradigm, right? And this is what you do if you're a pharmaceutical manufacturer. You don't want to be making the molecule of intent plus some other random stuff hanging out in there, which might kill you. You have to be very focused on synthesizing and purifying that one molecule. So that's one factor of sort of this single molecule paradigm. The other factor is it's really, really difficult to do scientific studies on multiple molecules and their interactions or their synergies, right? Because when you're doing a scientific study, you want to get, your one variable, the molecule of interest, and you don't want other things, other confounding variables, confusing, the data that you're getting. So it's much easier to study single molecules scientifically, to isolate them, to characterize them, etc., than it is to study two molecules at the same time, right? Or three. And scientific studies, at least in English, the first one that I became aware of that was about synergy in a medicinal plant was actually done by Frank Sturmitz's lab up at CSU up in Fort Collins. And he published a study, which is on the internet, anybody can go see it, called Synergy in a Medicinal Plant. And that was one of the very, very earliest ones. I think that came out in 99, where they actually looked at three different phytochemicals, and their interactions on, I think they were doing antibacterial assays. And the plant they were using was Mahonia, which is Oregon grape, which is, a very commonly used herbal medicine, and it's also really common in this area as a wild plant. So they were looking at, there's an antibacterial phytochemical in Oregon grape called berberine. It's a type of alkaloid, and it's a contact antibacterial. So it's not like an antibiotic you would take, but on contact, it's pretty good at killing a lot of different sorts of bacteria. But they discovered in the process of isolating that one molecule out of the crude plant extract, they discovered that the crude plant extract, adjusting for concentration, actually worked better as an antibacterial than that one isolated molecule of berberine did. And so they're like, what's going on? So they went back into the extract again. They found two other phytochemicals in there. One of them is called 5'-MHC, and the other one's called, Phyophorbide, I think, which interestingly are concentrated in the leaves of the plant, while the berberine is in the root. So they discovered that if those, phytochemicals are used together in the antibacterial assays, they just work much more strongly, right? So that was, kind of a revelation, because it wasn't really on people's radar so much that there would be synergy between molecules in medicinal plant, because we were focused on getting that one, active ingredient, that one magic bullet, because that's the pharmaceutical paradigm,
Sure.
right?
And that's
And
the idea that one. I mean, we saw that with cannabis, obviously with THC for 30
exactly.
years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now we're only beginning to understand that THC, I mean, the terpenes really are the keys to the endocannabinoid system as far
So
as strain to strain, and which it's funny to see sort of aromatherapy come to age. When I was a kid,
Right?
aromatherapy was like hoo-hoo stuff that definitely was not science. That was the last thing that people considered it, and it's real science.
Oh,
I
I
have medical
know,
textbooks on
right?
it.
Yeah, me too. I know, it's a cultural thing. It's like the cultural obsession, the one molecule, it's patentable, therefore you can recoup your investment
Sure.
and make money off of it. It's easy to study one molecule, and it's safer, than having a few random molecules in during your manufacturing process. So the scientific world is real, of medicinal chemistry was really focused in that paradigm. But then we have nature, right? And, nature and plants are the ultimate phytochemists, because they've been working out these incredibly complex systems of synergistic chemicals for literally like hundreds of thousands, millions of years, So, because we have so much power as human scientists, we tend to become, kind of dazzled by what we can do, and we start becoming a little disrespectful towards nature. I'm just like, oh, nature, that's just some, confusing, crude weed or something, and what I'm doing here in the lab is the real deal. But actually, it's kind of the other way around when you think about it with a broader perspective. The subtleties and the intricacies of the medicinal actions that can arise out of synergistic phytochemicals are so complicated, so profound, so powerful that we can't actually even study them scientifically. Number one, it would be incredibly difficult and take a long time to get, good data that way. And number two, it would be so expensive. Nobody's going to pay for it because you can't patent it, so there's no way to recoup your investment with that. So, I think we kind of throw up our hands and focus on what we're good at doing, and instead of, going back and looking at what nature is up to and being like, wow, there's some amazing synergistic interactions there.
So now, to what extent? I mean, I know one thing that we talk about in cannabis is like when you're making polar extractions, like when you're making extractions in general, we're trying to avoid pulling out the chlorophyll, which I always wonder, are we missing some base point of synergy by removing the chlorophyll? Aesthetically, we don't like it, so we leave it out. Is that like the key to it being good medicine?
Yes, because green is a very bad color,
It's
right?
not as good as gold.
Right? Gold is better than green. Oh, that's so silly. So, chlorophyll is an amazing molecule. So you have chlorophyll and then you have phytol, right? Chlorophyll itself is the whole molecule. It has incredible properties. So in traditional herbalism, traditional nutrition, we would say chlorophyll is a detoxifier, it's a blood builder. In Chinese medicine, they say it's nourishing, it builds the qi, right? So, building energy and detoxification sound like really handy things to have in your, health repertoire there. It's also been studied scientifically as a molecule. It has some strong